Waiters and waitresses, what's your most awkward came to the table at the wrong time moment? As I approached the table, a lady brushed me out of the way and sat down next to the couple there. The couple were obviously on a date. The lady turned to the woman on the date and said, "So, I'm his wife. Who the frick are you?" Plot twist, she's his divorce lawyer. Guy and girlfriend come into our restaurant for dinner. Guy then secretly tells me he has a ring and wants to propose to her and wants it to be all special. I was to wait until a specific time and come and ask if the table needed anything else, and then he would say I do. I need her. And then get down on his knee, etc. etc. I thought it was cheesy, but hey, I wanted to help the guy out and be a part of something like that. So I said I'd do it. I get to the table and ask the question. He then pops the question and she burst into tears. But not good happy tears. She then blurts out that she wants to break up and that she was in love with another guy, apparently a friend of his. I just slowly backed away from the table as his entire world came crashing down on him. Calder gave the guy a calm dessert or some crap. Wait, maybe that's the play. My roommate is a bartender and he came up to a couple seated at the bar right when the man handed his wife divorce papers. I set down a plate of garlic bread as a girl was turning down a marriage proposal. I'm sorry, I just can't marry you. It's alright. Who's ready for some breadsticks? Early 2000, I served a couple. As soon as they were seated, the guy got a phone call and proceeded to take the call. It lasted the entire meal. His wife girlfriend was furious by the time I brought out the dessert, which was when he finally hung up the phone and she said, "Frick you and frick your mum. We can't even have one night out." Frick, man. Can you imagine being sat across from a date who gets a phone call and opens it with, "No mum, I'm not doing anything right now"? I served a few years back as a first job. One time, going to the table to ask them a question, I hear, "Well, you got a vasectomy for her." As soon as the lady saw me, she stopped. I've always wondered what the extent of that conversation was. She was probably upping the ante and asking him to get a castration. I've been on both sides of this one. When I was 12, my mom took me and my two younger brothers, 7 and 8, to Chili's for dinner. After we ordered our food, she started telling us that her and our father had been having a lot of problems and would be getting a divorce. Just about the time she finishes her spiel about both of them still loving us, the food comes to the table and all three of us start crying. My youngest brother bawling his eyes out. Fast forward 15-ish years. I'm waiting tables at your local crab hut, and as I walk out of the kitchen towards my table, I see the 4 children at the table start to tear up and cry, and the parents avoid eye contact as I set the food down. Really wanted to tell those kids that things would still be okay. Whoa, as a child of divorce, frick parents who try to take an easy way out by doing it in public. They're kids, they are not going to rein in their emotions because others are around, and home has more comfort. Not as awkward as it is sad. I've been a server for a while, and one of my regulars was an older couple. They hadn't been to the restaurant for a few months, but the menu changed and we had lost a bunch of regulars. I'm clueless. About a month ago, the husband comes in alone, and I ask him about his wife. He started crying and told me she died and he was afraid to come in alone. I sat down and hugged him for a while, then grabbed the owner who talked with him over dinner. He stayed 5 hours. Note to all servers, you don't know what kind of day your customer is having. Be a good human. You're good people. I can't tell you I love you more than anyone. I love my mother more and won't betray her like that. The conversation continued from there into cringe land. Middle of a breakup. I had already taken their drink order, and when I got back with the drinks, they were glowering at each other and talking through clenched teeth in that seething "I'm not yelling at you because we're in public but you're really in for it" when we get to the car tone. I drop the drinks off, and as I'm walking away I hear "Fine. Frick you," and she storms past me. By the time I came back out of the kitchen, he was gone too. I guess they weren't hungry after all. A couple came in and they were arguing already, but once they sat down it got progressively worse and louder. I felt embarrassed because the table right across from them was celebrating a birthday. I rounded up everyone I could find, about 7 of us, and we sang the happy birthday song as loud as we all could. The arguing couple left shortly thereafter. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Frick these wankers behind you. Happy birthday to you. Go to check up on a table of middle-aged women on their ladies' night out only to find them huddled around a cell phone watching a pee of some dude absolutely destroying some chick's butthole. I would have stood behind them with a blank face staring at the phone. Had an older single guy getting ready to leave, so I go up and cash him out. He was a nice guy and didn't give me any problems, but as soon as I got back to his table, he was sitting on the edge of his seat, legs spread with his balls hanging out of his shorts all over the booth, all with a toothy grin while saying it feels good to finally air out. I dropped the change on his table without saying a word and went back into the kitchen to dry heave in shock. I bleached and unleashed an entire can of Lysol on that seat after he vacated the premises. Witnessed a woman pulling out a jar of dead bugs. She then proceeded to put one into her food and flag me down expecting a compensated bill. Please tell me that you told your manager and they didn't comp her food. At a restaurant where I used to bartend, we had jokes to manager. One day she said to her server, "Sarah, I just sat you a table. You'll need a high chair." So Sarah goes to greet her table with a high chair, assuming her party has a small child. When she gets there, she finds 3 adults, one of whom is a midget. I'm really hoping she had the presence of mind to just continue walking to the other side of the restaurant as if she was just putting the high chair away. At 18, having just found my first real job whilst supporting myself through uni, I walked over to a table to ask them if everything was okay with their meals. As soon as I asked, I noticed that one of the guys was wiping away tears. The other had a look on his face I had never encountered before. So what you're saying is you thought there was a chance you had HIV but you still fricked me. I didn't know what to do. Backed off. Didn't go back. Holy crap. I walk up to my table. A mom, dad, and son. 8 years old probably. The mom is going nuts. I guess another waiter was walking by with a pepper mill and it fell out of his hand and hit her on the head. Not hard, but it's not a small thing. Well, she's going crazy. I'm trying to figure out what's going on, and the table next to them is laughing at her freaking out. She keeps yelling, "He hit me. I want to call the cops. He hit me." The waiter is apologizing a crap load, but she's not having it. She yells, "That's assault," and the table next to her that's laughing yells, "No miss, that's a pepper." I lose it. Have to run to the back. I finally get my crap together and come back, and the little kid is in hysterics now. The dad has had enough of his wife's crap and is threatening to leave if she doesn't calm down. Starts telling his wife, "Do you want me to leave again? Do you want me to go?" The kid starts bawling and yelling, "No daddy, please don't leave again. Mommy, act normal. Please stay daddy." The lady finally drops the psychotics and finishes her food. We comp everything and they don't leave me crap. I really don't blame them, cause after the incident I was a ghost. I avoided them like the plague. Poor kid. No miss, that's a pepper. Pure gold. Had a table came in for this guy's birthday. It was a surprise birthday dinner hosted by his girlfriend, although she didn't realize that 2 of his female friends she had invited were also sleeping with him. I came over to the table just as one girl stood up and yelled "You be" to another and stormed out. The second one threw a drink on the guy and walked out. The girlfriend, with tears running down of her face, asked of the bill and then exits. I come back to the table with a bill with a guy drenched in wine and 5 of his remaining friends still there in hysterics. Dude, if his friends were laughing, they must have been waiting for that day to come, or they knew their buddy was a total douche. Says a lot. Outback Steakhouse. Walked up to grate the table. "Hi folks, how are you?" Guy asks wife for divorce right there. My jaw drops. I walk away from the table. She is sobbing loud. I go back eventually and they order a full meal. Bloomin' onion included. They have a full meal. She sobs then entire time. She has difficulty eating. I crap you not. He says it's her birthday and wants a dessert for her with a candle. So I had to bring out a thunder from down under with a candle while she's crying uncontrollably. I was taking the breakfast order from a couple staying at the hotel. The lady ordered a full English breakfast and I asked how she would like her eggs. Her reply fertilized. She then scowled at her husband. I backed away and ordered her fried eggs. I would have given her chicken. Woman comes in with a baby on her hip to confront her husband and his girlfriend. She went off. We all watched from the vestibule. I used to work at a chain restaurant in my province that was marketing towards being very family friendly, but we were located near the local university, so we got a lot of students from there as well. One time I caught a guy watching, sound off thank god, furry p. Why? There's children nearby, high school kids on a date where it's obvious that it's a fairly new relationship. Walked up as the girl was discussing what their future babies would look like. Some elderly ladies didn't hear me coming as they were discussing the difference between BJs with or without dentures. That awkward moment when you realize that your regulars are not father and amp, daughter, but actually boyfriend and amp, girlfriend where boyfriend insists on being daddy. Not a waiter, but a busser. It was Father's Day and a new table of 2 had just sat down. The guy was facing away from me so he couldn't see when I would be coming. Anyway, I was about to reach their table and fill their glasses with some water. Remember, this guy still can't see me when he suddenly says to his girlfriend, "You ready to make me a daddy tonight?" Yeah, the look on his face once he realized I was right there was priceless. Probably the times when I bring food out and it's just sitting in my hands and both people at the table are playing with their phone exactly where the plate of food needs to go. Also that time I accidentally spilt practically an entire bucket of marinara sauce on someone. She was super duper nice about it though. Oh god. This is a tough one. Some that come to mind are the many times I have walked into husbands berating their wives, racist jokes, once a girl giving her fellow a handy, customers making out, drunk women crying, so many drunk women crying, a woman telling her husband she wants a divorce in a public place so he can't hit her for it. She warned me ahead of time so I wouldn't be caught off guard just in case he did start hitting her. Lots of prostitutes, drug deals, a S-faced teacher bump into one of her students and her family. I have had to cut off a bride on her wedding night. I have had to cut off entire wedding parties, and some redneck real. This doesn't scratch the surface of the crap I have seen in my 15 years behind a bar. Oh god. As a young teacher in Japan with a social life, the lack of open container laws means I run into my students' S-faced wide-eyed too often. It freaking blows. But the woman who asked for a divorce in a public place so her husband would be less likely to hit her, that breaks my heart. And the fact that she was polite enough to warn you just rubs salt in the wound. I once approached a couple of our regulars and saw the wife making a hole with her left thumb and pointer, like the A-OK gesture, then taking her fist and pushing it into that hole and twisting her arm as she opened up her fingers around her arm, then violently pushing her fist forward and back. I showed up to their table, completely stunned, and the wife saw me then quickly covered her face in embarrassment. After a couple moments of awkward silence, she just looked at me and said that was exactly what you think it was. The two of them and I started laughing and the awkwardness was gone. The next time they came in, the wife held up her fist and cocked an eyebrow at me, and that became how we greeted each other anytime we saw each other. It stayed this way until I left that restaurant. I have to say, I wonder what the context of their conversation was that required a demonstration of fisting. Was a bartender. Was on my way to the kitchen behind the bar and it suddenly registered in my head that I just passed an older, chubby gent who had a near empty glass. I turned around to ask him if he wanted a refill when the shutter noise of his phone went off. His phone was aimed in my direction, butt level. While working as a colonial tour guide, I stopped tightening my corset so much when I caught 11-year-old boys taking my picture while I wasn't looking. Taking my picture was normal, but they usually included my head. Well, walking up and talking before you realize they're praying is always awkward. Also, worked in a bar a while back. Girl was sitting at the bar alone for a while, crying. Awkward as heck. So we give her a beer on the house. She explains that the guy she was seeing just dumped her out of nowhere. We feel bad, console her, etc. A little while later, guy joins her, and they are visibly arguing. He's straight-faced while she's crying. The bar is loud, so she's not wailing or anything, but she's crying pretty hard. Again, so weird. Why would you do this in public? Her and the guy sit there for like 2 hours. I don't understand why you'd stay and hang out with a girl you just dumped. Later in the night, he starts hitting on another girl at the bar while this chick is in the bathroom. I go to the bathroom to make sure she's okay and she's on the floor hysterical and mentioning her inhaler. She has friends standing around her. and they are doing nothing, just standing there. So I have to go back to where she was sitting and ask the guy which purse is hers. He tries to play macho and act like he doesn't know until I get right in his face and he immediately points to her purse. I am just floored. She came here with friends and they let her sit at the bar and be dumped and cry in public. And now she's needing an inhaler and no one is doing anything? It was the weirdest situation ever. By the way everyone acted, I assume maybe she's the drama queen of the group and no one wants to deal with it. But crap. Don't hang out with her if that's the case. Don't leave your friend hysterically asking for an inhaler on the floor of a bar bathroom. A few years ago I had a huge asthma attack in the middle of London surrounded by people, including my large group of friends, and most of them just walked off and left me. People do not take asthma seriously. I was lucky that one of the people I was there with had an ex who was asthmatic. He carried me into Boots and they called me an ambulance. People can be idiots about asthma. It's scary. Went up to a table of a few younger guys, probably 17, and one older guy, probably 30. I got them their drinks, came back with food, and the older guy was handing a giant freaking bag of weed to these kids underneath the table. One time, my dad and I went out to eat at Outback Steakhouse. The waitress walked up right as we were discussing how exactly a kangaroo would frick another. She didn't come back. Caught a guy looking at pee on his cell phone. I pretended not to see, but he knew I did and his friends lost it laughing. Later, when the table was paying, I said, "I'm sorry about that time I caught you looking at pee. Let's not let it make things awkward between us." I also recently overheard some guys talking about a murder-suicide pact they had and discussing the best place to dump a body. It was pretty uncomfortable. "And no, I won't frick you in the butt. This is our first date." Then she grabbed her crap and left while he was screaming. I turned right around and noped out of that one. Fricking in the butt is typically reserved for the second date. I waited on a couple who apparently came in all the time. Sweet as can be, all lovey-dovey. They were apparently together for a long time, but I hadn't seen them yet because they generally only showed up during the day. 10 minutes into their date, the woman gets up, throws her panini in his face, and storms out of the diner. I was dumbfounded and my co-workers had no idea what to say. They all were so happy when that couple came in and seethed with jealousy when they were seated at my section. The man apologized profusely and handed me way more money than he owed, assuring me that he meant to and that the change was mine. I felt bad. They did seem nice. I hope they worked things out. What a waste of a panini. Take over a coffee to a regular guy who was renowned for being an egotistical, rude butthole, just in time for him to slip pamphlets about erectile dysfunction and size increasing off the table. Explains a lot. I came to the table while they praying before their meal about their dying relative. It was so awkward. I joined in. "Hey guys, here's that tartar and cocktail y'all. Lord please help Jennifer overcome cancer." This one is the funniest so far. Imo. That must have been so freaking awkward. I walk up to her table and recognize my friend and her boyfriend's parents. I was friends with the boyfriend too and had been trying to get a hold of him for a few weeks. I didn't have her number. I came to the table, said hello, and asked how he was doing and if he was just really busy or something. He died last week. His mother delivered this news with a smile on her face. I smiled back, excused myself, went to the kitchen and bawled. What the frick? After delivering the bill, I saw a woman at the table, 30-ish, writing some crap down. I thought it was a paycheck, so I came to the table to pick it up. She was actually writing down her cell number on the bill with a rappel moi. Call me. I'm French next to it. I was 17. Mainly just going to take orders from arguing couples. Happened twice and twice the woman ended up being unbelievably rude to me. "You chose to come here. Do not take it out on me." Turn around to ask if their first bites are alright. They are praying. However, worst is when some are praying and others aren't. "Can I get another Coke?" whispered over a prayer is, well, awkward as heck. That's probably something I would do. I am not religious, and most of my family, as well as several close friends are, so I'd be the one sitting there waiting and asking nicely for another drink. Long Island iced tea though. We went out to eat one night with my wife, brother, and his girlfriend. The whole time my brother would say something just as the waitress was coming to our table, unintentionally. First it was something about murdering cats, then about crapping his pants. The final thing was talking some other restaurant he had been and telling us how crappy the waitress was for never refilling the drink. You could see the pain in her eyes as she only heard the last remark and quickly grabbed the drink. We felt so bad that we tipped 30%. A couple complaining to my manager about me. I took too long to bring her a platani so she doesn't even want to eat here anymore. Was waiting at table with a pregnant woman, her husband and their young girl, and when I go over to hand them their food, the little girl in the sweetest voice says, "Mommy, how did that baby get inside you?" Both parents looked at each other silently and proceeded to ask me where I thought it came from. I immediately finished putting down their food and noped out of there pretending like I didn't hear them. I was a bartender and came around the bar at a birthday party to do the rounds and check the floor. I leaned past this couple to grab a couple of glasses the glassy had missed and realized the guy had his hand so far up her tennis skirt, fancy dress, that one could obviously assume her vagina started before his hand ended. He smirked at me and later tried to pass me something with that same hand. I let him set it down on the bar. No thanks. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.